Alrighty.
Right.
Recording in progress.
Okay, so it is time for us to call this meeting to order. This is the Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee for the Town of Ulysses. Today is Thursday, August 1st. It is 2024. It's 5:30 p.m. We'll do roll call first. So how about we go around?
Carl Plankowski, Planning Board.
Smoke line planning board.
Oh, pause for 1 second.
You have some in the waiting room, but if people are interrupting, and let them know that.
Okay, gotcha.
You're next.
Did you go?
Yes, I did.
Oh. Diane Cohen, committee?
Roxanne Marino, Conservation Sustainability Advisor. Long one. Chris Hansen, village person.
Are we still recording? Did we record that? Or?
Yeah, we're just having connectivity issues with HDMI cable, so you can. Not see them,
Do we still need this?
but you're online.
Do we have to say that again, or are we good with the roll call?
There's Liz, so we could.
All right, so did we get Rose?
I think so.
Yes.
Rose
Okay.
Hansen.
Okay, Ann DePetta, I'm on this committee. I'm one of the chairs. I see we have Liz in Zoom and we have Chris, so we'll go with Liz and Chris. We'll circle back to you later.
Hi, everyone. We're just doing roll call.
Yep.
Yep.
Liz Weatherby, town board and vice chair.
Thanks, Liz. Okay, so that's our first order of business. On to number 2, approval of the agenda. Did everybody get to see the agenda?
Yes.
Any changes, recommendations, insights?
Yeah. No, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second it.
Awesome. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay.
Aye.
Great. Thank you, Liz. Item number 3, approval of past minutes. Did everybody get a copy of the past minutes? Did everybody
Yes,
get
we
a
did.
chance to review? Any changes,
None.
things to say, talk about?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Can we get a motion? when you're ready?
Yeah, I'll make a motion again
Yeah.
for the minutes.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm gonna
Aye.
I wasn't there.
Okay, Diane's abstaining.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Great, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, motion carries. Okay, item number 4 is privilege of the floor. This is the moment in time when we give anybody who would like to speak to the committee 3 minutes to address the committee. So Chris, we see you on Zoom. Hi there. I don't know if you want privilege of the floor or if you're just here to.
Yes, please.
Okay, hey Chris, go ahead.
Okay. I see that on the agenda today, you have revisiting the outreach plan for the document. And I've kind of, Liz will be familiar with, tried to encourage the town board to possibly consider including more diversity in some of the committees by offering stipends so that people who, maybe can't afford the time to cook as well as come to a meeting that starts at 5:30 have some money that they could get dinner with or whatever. But that's not happening, or at least not in any quick way. So one of the things, given that the strictly volunteer people with the leisure time is who is going to be represented on the various boards and committees, is to perchance in the community outreach, look at a more neighborhood specific approach to things. There are parts of the community that are often overrepresented, just because, the people who live there have more time. And it would be, from my perspective, a really good use of the outreach process to get a better understanding about how the community is demographically different from place to place, that's information that, they can easily get both from the census data and also conceivably from holding more neighborhood specific kinds of meetings and talking with the people who come about what their issues are. I did notice that
Chris,
there were
let
a
me
lot.
just- Chris, let me time you out just for 1 second, just so you know, in this section, we have 3 minutes per person. So I want to hear what else you have to say, but can I give you like a 1-minute warning?
Yeah, that was a long 1-minute warning. Okay.
Thank you.
I'll finish up in a minute. I had it pretty well planned so that I could use as little time as I knew you'd let me have. So a national real estate firm by the name of Homes Inc. had about 4 cars out in my neighborhood week before last. They're going to be doing their vision of a national neighborhood profile for their national real estate sales website. And it just seems like, I don't know, maybe the folks in T-Burg are so taken with all of their write-ups that they're not concerned about their taxes going up when a bunch of well-to-do people move in. But I am, and I know some of my neighbors are too. If I have a couple of more minutes, I also want to mention that both me and my next door neighbor have noticed real changes in the hydrology and where it is that that streams are popping up out of the ground. And, some year it'd be great if somebody cared about that too. Thanks a lot.
Oh, good.
Bye.
Hey, Chris, I was just going to say before you drop off, thank you for being here. We appreciate you giving your input, and we're taking note of that. And we have our consultant is here who is going to be helping with a lot of these issues. So thank you for being here. We appreciate it.
I'm not officially dropping out. I'm just going to try to make dinner and have my lousy internet service not
Okay,
drop
all
out,
right.
but I may drop
Okay,
out.
no,
But
I
I'm
will
going
admit-
to try to listen to you.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you. Anything else? Okay. So that takes us to item, is that my, no. That takes us to our item number 5, which is new business items. First on new business items is A, which is our introduction to Matt Horn from MRB. This is our selected comprehensive plan consultant. So welcome. I'm not exactly sure what we're supposed to do in this segment.
I think he's supposed to explain what he's going to do.
Great, okay. So
I
without
think
Neil, we
that's
don't
the
have Neil
idea.
here today, so usually I look at him, and so thank you for.
And I've been getting input from my son.
Yes.
What makes sense, what we feel like makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So Neil's gave me a little list to tick through, so
Oh,
I'll
perfect.
tick through that.
Perfect.
But just to open, a lot of you had an opportunity to engage with during the interview process, so did appreciate that, do appreciate the opportunity to be on the project. I'm just one member of the project team, as we discussed during our presentation. The town board at the last town board meeting did authorize the attorney and the supervisor to finish up the contract. So we're working through that now. We're just about there. I think within the next couple of days, even we could have something finalized. But we didn't want to wait. Neil's in particular, but our team especially. We know you all have been working at this for some time, and we want to make sure that we stay on that momentum and capitalize. So thank you. Thanks for the confidence in us, and looking forward to it. Just a little bit about the rhythm of the team and how we might be engaging. I'm going to make I'm the project manager on the effort. I'm going to make my very best effort to be at as many of these steering committees as possible. And Niels did ask me to go ahead and confirm with you all, and that's on your list, to confirm with you all on meeting days and times working forward. Generally, we know this is about you all have already been at this for almost a year, but we got about another year ahead of us in development of the plan. And with that kind of notice, we can make just about any schedule work, and there's not going to be a problem. In the near term, we'll see a hiccup or two where it might be me plus one, it might be just me, or it might be just my colleague who's going to facilitate. So we'll get into kind of the rhythm of that, but generally we're anticipating monthly meetings on the same kind of rhythm and schedule that you've been meeting. Sprinkled into that, we certainly want to talk tonight about the public engagement plan, public involvement plan. So that's likely to occur in between meetings. Execution of that plan is likely to occur in between meetings. There'll be, and we'll walk through the schedule here in a moment, but there'll be situations where in between a meeting, we might schedule 5 or 10 interviews between 2 meetings, invite everyone who wants to participate to come and participate. Obviously, due to schedules, we'll probably just throw a date out there and say, hey, we're meeting with Farmer Jan on this day and at this time at her place. To your privilege of the floor's point, we don't want to disrupt folks' daily lives, but we do need the information. So we'll be meeting at that farm at 1 o'clock, and we're bringing lunch. So come on out if you can make it. And if you can make it, great. We encourage you to participate as much as you can. If you can't, you can't. Similarly, we've slated into the strategy some focus groups. Yes, sir.
I just have a question. If you do these meetings, are you going to record them?
It depends, right? So if we're in town hall and we've got the equipment and all of that available to us, that will be clearly easy to do.
Okay.
If we're in a barn, on a farm out somewhere, it might be more difficult, but at a minimum, we'll always have meeting notes.
Okay, good,
So that
good.
you'll have.
In case we cannot be at a meeting, so
Absolutely.
we know what was discussed.
Yes, so
Okay.
at a minimum, so what comes out of a product of the public involvement plan is a report, an individual report, and that'll include meeting notes from every interview we do, every focus group we do. And then again, hopefully as many things as we can record, we would record.
Okay.
So just basically, I think probably the easiest way to do this, sorry to be stepping away from the microphone for folks at home. I'm gonna email this. This is an updated schedule for the plan, and I will email this to Niels and Molly so they can distribute to folks who aren't able to make it. Just walk through it tonight. This is an early framework. So this came directly out of our proposal, and all I did was just change the dates along the top for now, just to recognize that we're starting today, not months ago as you thought we might. And so effectively where we go from here is the town leadership and MRB leadership are going to get together this month and create what we call the project charter, which basically is just grabbing that proposal and saying, yes, everything we said we were going to do is what you want us to do. Here's how we're going to communicate. Here's how we're going to invoice, those kinds of things. It's just a little, it's just a little confirmation of direction with the town leadership. We built into our program. We do this routinely. We'll likely meet or do a call with Niels bi-weekly every 2 weeks. So it shows up as in between these meetings and then either right before or right after a steering committee meeting. Here's what's coming up on the agenda. Here's what we talked about at the last meeting. You had asked us to look into this. We did or we didn't because, and. That's mostly to keep Niels and Molly and the town board confident that we're on the path we said we'd be on, and for them to apprise us of any hiccups or concerns or opportunities to enhance the program. So we'll be doing those bi-weekly calls. And then this committee is anticipated to continue to meet monthly all the way up through basically this time next year or late June of next year. Public engagement, and again, this is a skeleton, right? We're definitely tonight we're gonna dig at this a little bit, but we're gonna clean this up so that it really fits. This was us doing this blind from a proposal standpoint. But generally, how it works is in these first 2 months, we want to formalize that public involvement plan. So we've had the opportunity to actually go back and review meeting minutes from your notes, from your meeting minutes on the website. But we want to talk through both tonight and then into our next meeting in September, what the public engagement strategy really looks like. And we'll dig at that. So by the end of next month or by the close of our next meeting, we'll have a formal documented public engagement strategy that we can hang on the website. We can report out to the town board, that you all can share with your constituencies, how we're going to communicate with the public. Between now and next month, we're going to discuss with Niels and the rest of the town leadership. We talked about it tonight as well. You have an existing project website that has been a resource. It's a great resource, by the way. The folks who've worked on that and put it together have done an amazing job. It's very comprehensive and well placed and easy to get to. So the question will be, is that this framework that stays? Would you prefer to see an independent standalone website? We've got room for that if we need to do that. If you think it's just fine, then we'll just leave it exactly how it is. We don't monkey with things that are already working really well. But we'll also talk about, we had talked about in our interview about the opportunity for us to use the mobile phone application and some other kind of digital tools that we'll decide between tonight and our next meeting, whether those should go in. Whatever you decide on the digital front will be launched after our next meeting. We can be ready to go very quickly on that. Focus groups, we like to pick up right away, mostly because of weather, right? The fall is going to be a great time to spend in the field and to spend meeting with folks. Once we get into holiday season, it becomes a little more difficult anyway. We know on the ag side, fall is difficult anyway with harvest. So we anticipate probably being into winter before we can really get in earnest meetings with farmers and other folks who work in the ag industry. But we do see those focus group meetings kind of playing out over fall and early winter. And then we've got a couple of public forums, but I'll come back to those. Tonight, we're gonna get into the public engagement strategy though, and all of this can get thrown right out the window if you wanted to. We're gonna tailor it exactly, not just in terms of content, but we're gonna tailor it in terms of scheduling and the rhythm and your ability to participate. All of that we're gonna take into account. None of this is locked in. There are a few grant related things that we have to do, things like public hearings and public forums, but otherwise we've got a lot of leniency there. On community visioning, the flow that was overviewed in your request for proposals or request for qualifications was that we'd be kind of taking in some input from the public up front. We would then sit down with the town board, a joint session of this group and the town board, to say, hey, here's what we're hearing. Here's what prior planning documents say about our vision for the future. And here's how all of it gels together. These are the elements of vision that we see coming together. And remember back from our early engagements, the vision really is the foundation of the plan. We got to get it right. And so taking our time with it, making sure there's public input and making sure that town leadership is on board very early, because ultimately we end up handing it off to them and we want them to have major buy-in on the front end. So there'll be a joint work session, hopefully before the end of the year, after which we'll come together with a draft vision statement right after the first of the year to bring back to you, to bring back to the town board and say, did we get it right? Are we on the right track here? We'll confirm that through a second joint session with the town board, and then we'll go out to the public to reveal it at a public forum. And we'll ask folks, typically what we like to do is, I call this a red dot, green dot exercise, where we have folks walk up to the board or look at it on a website and just tag words and phrases that they're in love with, tag words and phrases that revolt them, and try to sand around the edges so we can come together under.
So it's not a finished project when you put it out there.
So we put a draft out there.
Okay,
Yes.
so people can still give input at that point.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And in all honesty, I mean, big themes have to get into concrete in early spring, but little words can be changed all the way until adoption, right? what we like to see, or what we're hopeful that we'll see, is that the big themes are not things that we argue about, right? The big themes are things that we generally rally around. And folks do just have, there's a whole segment of the population, and I can find myself in this segment sometimes, that gets really down in the nitty gritty, really down in words and vocabulary and what this means. I'll use an example. Like I in another community up in Seneca County, I use the word capitalize on our natural resources. And the word capitalize became a big conversation around debate. What I meant was, you take these natural resources for what they've given us so far, which is great farms and great agritourism and this beautiful natural setting, and don't mess it up. And what they took it as was quite literally capital, like drawing cash from it and maybe even exploiting it. And so we spent a lot of time around capitalize, but we all, and I say we, I mean, we're just out here or facilitating, but the entire community was rallied around the theme. Don't mess up our natural resources. And so we will be at a point where we'll be tug of warring over individual words, but hopefully in early spring, we'll be agreed on themes, and we'll have something to work with as we start to get into developing plan elements. But great question. It's never in concrete. We just like to see the big themes there. We'll begin, we've already begun, just so you know, to start to develop that environmental analysis. And the term environmental analysis, just because of the funding source, really is very comprehensive, and it includes things that we would consider market analysis, demographic analysis, a lot of the data orientation, the prior plans were very thoughtful about not throwing out things just because they're older. We want to grab what from that 2009 plan, what's still relevant. Let's at least explore it and kick it around a little bit and make sure that we're not just going to set it aside because we're starting a new plan. So what you'll likely see here in the next, probably not next meeting, but in the next couple of meetings is we're going to be grabbing big themes and maybe some to-do lists from some of those existing plans, and asking you all, the town board, Niels and staff, to help us with a prior plan audit, to say, here was a to-do list from the 2009 plan. Did all of these things get done? And of the things that didn't get done, how many of them are still relevant? Are these things we need to put on the parking lot to come back to, or are these things we can just throw out because they don't make any sense anymore? We're talking about them 20 years ago, it doesn't make sense. So it's literally just a little Excel spreadsheet that we develop for you, and you go through and check, that got done, and this one didn't get done, and I'm not interested anymore, and this one didn't get done, and we got to talk about it. That work is starting now. We're starting to comb through those prior plans. The market, the data production is very quick. It happens very quickly. The data analysis takes some time. But what we'll be doing in, it looks like, and I think this is probably accurate, but in late fall, we'll be bringing you some data reports. And what we love about working in communities at this scale is that you can look at a data report. The Census Bureau may have modeled it and said they added 11 houses in the town of Ulysses in the last 10 years. And you can say, no, we added 8. And it's that one and that one and that one over there. And so what we're really looking for are just, let's common sense look at this data and make sure there's nothing that jumps out here. What always gets modeled and gets people quirky about data are things like job counts. Someone will say, the mining industry grew by 21%. And the people at the table will start scratching their heads and say, I don't remember a mining operation getting bigger or smaller. And somebody will say, what about that gravel pit? And anyway, we end up just really ground truthing the data, because we're going to try to make some decisions based on data. So we don't want to rely only on models. They're valuable, but you've got local intelligence, so you know more than the models. So that existing conditions report is going to be floated to you in late fall, probably our November meeting. You'll see that. Give us some good information on the data. We'll give you some time to kick the tires on it, and before the end of the year, we'll try to wrap that up. And then we really get down into developing the content of the plan, right? We're starting to hear from the public. We've got a good vision statement in hand of what we're working toward. We've got good data to support the decisions we're going to make. And you all have a whole series of elements that you want us to evaluate and assess as part of this project. And we're gonna tick them off one by one, or really not really one by one. That's inefficient, but in concert with one another as they play off of one another. And we're going to try to complete those section drafts by spring, call it April-ish. Have those in your hands and in the hands of people who you think should have a look at them in early spring, and then we'll refine them, tighten them up, and be ready to deliver them to the town board in early summer next year. So it's a whirlwind trip, but it's a lot of fun. You all have already been at this a while, so I know that there's an eagerness to get started. So I'll just say to you, we can put our foot on the gas. We can ease our foot off the gas. We can, when you say, I've had enough of this, I'm ready to go on to something else, feel free to just say it, and we'll turn. Every community is a little bit different in their approach. And I think we mentioned this in the planning process, or in the proposal process, but different folks at this table have different interests. Different folks in the community have different interests. There are people who, during the visioning process, just totally check out because they came here to get things done, right? And there are people in the nuts and bolts parts of this conversation who kind of check out because they're really interested in that 50,000 foot, where are we going as a community thing? Where we're going to put the recycle bins aren't half as important as that in their minds, right? And so we try to respect each other's viewpoints, and but when we get to a point where there is just round agreement that we have beat this thing right up to its pulp state, then we'll pull it off the table and move on to the next thing, right? So questions about that schedule generally, again, we're going to massage it and move things around as we dig into things like the public engagement plan and some of the town board interactions and focus groups. But just generally, does that sound about like what we talked about a few months ago?
So I'm a little curious, you have focus groups. And that's different than the visioning. So you do those first and that gives you stuff to work with, is
Yeah.
that okay?
Yeah.
Let's see, it's with the team.
And then similarly, those two big public forums, one is really built to make sure we've got the vision and 50,000 foot piece nailed from the public standpoint. And then the second one, which comes closer to the end of the process, is to make sure we got the nuts and bolts piece right. So we're kind of checking in periodically with the public. Also, this is a governance question, so it's a steering committee question. But what we like to do, I'm not a big fan of the ta-da at the end where we just do a big reveal and everybody hopefully likes it. So as we finish pieces of the plan and get them to a place where we're good and comfortable about them being in a draft form, we love to hang those back out on the website. So that planning foundations report, that existing conditions analysis, all that's going to go up on the website if you all are comfortable with that. And then as each element starts to come together and we've got good drafts, we're going to try to push those out so that at the end, we're really just stitching this thing together. And it's stuff that the community has already seen, the town board has already seen, and the adoption process is just. And again, just like you all have different perspectives, there are people in the community who would much rather just come in at the end. You know, ideation and critique are two different skill sets, and there are folks who just aren't comfortable in the ideation phase, so they come in and just critique and we try not to take any of that personally. That's where they're comfortable being. That's where we'll meet them.
Well, with that strategy, people can do it either way, right?
Got it.
Stay tuned throughout or come in at the end.
No big surprises.
That's the whole thing.
Right.
That's exactly what I was thinking, Mo. I like the idea of maybe not like first drafts, but as we are feeling comfortable between the town board, the planning group, the department, and this committee here, putting things out to the public for them to digest as we're working on other items. It might prevent that, oh, I didn't know about it at the end. So I like that idea. The one other question I had, Matt, just if we're getting into this process, you said that there were 2 forums, and I don't have the schedule obviously in front of me, but there were 2 forums that you propose right now. If we're getting into things and there's just some items that might be a little bit more controversial or that need really more input from the public, is there flexibility in the schedule to add a 3rd forum?
100%. And honestly, that it ends up saving effort ultimately, right? If we just do it right, get the answers we need, it ends up saving time and effort. The key is just identifying those as early as we can so that it doesn't drag the whole plan process and schedule back. But
Sure.
there's no magic about any of these numbers here. We probably don't want to do a public forum every month, but certainly we've got our 2 big milestones here, and along the way, anywhere there's a hiccup, anywhere we need more study or more conversation, we've got these focus groups front loaded, as you noted. If it's like, wow, we got deep into ag, or we got deep into natural resources and we're stuck and we need more information, we can do additional focus groups, we can do additional public roundtables, those kinds of things. They're critical. It's critical to getting it right. So yes, good question, and absolutely, there's no magic here, whatever works.
Okay,
Yeah,
great. Thanks.
unfortunate. Go ahead, Elizabeth.
No, I was just saying thank you.
Unfortunately, there are going to be a lot of people who are going to come in at the end
Yeah.
and going to say, no, I don't like this.
Always.
I mean, there's always that happens. How do you?
But it's great to try.
Yeah.
We will try our.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, well, I mean, I had a funny interaction. We had just been hired, and they would have been great to have asked us this question right before they hired us, but we had just been hired, and someone on the town board said, you know, just a quick question. If we do a comp plan, we don't have to adopt it, right? And I was thinking,
Wow.
well, you don't have to, but it would be the world's biggest waste of money, one of
Yeah.
the bigger wastes of money that we engage in. And not just money, but time and all the resident engagement and all of this. I said, why would you ask that? And he said, well, we only like to do things unanimously here. And I've got a feeling there's going to be some tug of war about particular issues. And if we mean unanimously of the town board, that's a lofty but achievable vision.
Mhm.
If we mean unanimity of the town of Ulysses and all of its residents and stakeholders, I think it's a stretch, and so I don't want to convince anyone otherwise. But I would say we do a lot in comprehensive plans. I won't say a lot, but enough that it's happened. Have folks come up at the end and say, hey, this says such and such, and I can't support the town board if we're going to go with such and such. And the town board makes a determination at that point. Hey, is this a theme? Is this person speaking on behalf of a large constituency of people who really feel opposite of what the plan says? If so, steering committee, we need you to take another look at this and help us understand what you were thinking when you got to this conclusion. If it's a person who's frustrated, we can try to assuage their frustrations and help them understand kind of the thinking and the vantage point under which the decision was made. I did this out in Monroe County. We worked with a little village out there, and we worked hard to get folks to meetings, to public forums. We did 3 or 4 of them in different places around the community, focus groups, and one person showed up at the end, and the town board was very deferential, and we held another public forum. And she was the only speaker. There were 20 people in the room. She was the only speaker, and she ticked off her list of 40 issues with the plan. And the village board looked at it and said, all right, it's the committee and the consultants considered all of these things, and this is why they made the decision, and we agree with that. And they adopted the plan ultimately, mostly because they realized that we had thought through it, but secondarily because it's one person and there wasn't a hue and cry. And I think to the privilege of the floor comment about being genuine about your public engagement efforts and really getting out there. I always feel like the best way and really the only way to judge a public engagement strategy is inputs. What did we put into this? We had this many public forums, we advertised it this many ways, we did them in this many different locations at this many different times of day. We had digital participation, that you can do 24/7. We had analog participation. We had paper surveys on the counter at the diner in case you don't have great internet connection, but you also can't come to a night meeting. We did everything we could to get folks out. And based on those inputs, we're comfortable that we did the sampling that needed to be done. Versus did our public engagement effort fail because people showed up at the public hearing and said they didn't like this particular element? That's a difficult judgment to make. So.
Yeah, well, I really appreciate that you have all that front loaded with the social media launch and the focus groups. I mean, that seems like an obvious, a good priority. So I'm glad that way. I had a question about the website, having it housed where it currently is versus you said something else that you have. Can you just provide a little bit of?
Does anybody mind? I have a goofy hip. Does anybody mind if
No,
I pull him?
absolutely, no. We can
please.
pull in so we can see you. on
Yeah,
the
you can
camera
come
a
right
little
up
bit.
here.
Do you mind if I plug it in right here?
Yeah, sure.
Then they can see on TV.
So, our partner, Highland Planning, is who, one of their roles is to structure the digital, piece of this.
Hmm.
And I can send you some samples of standalone websites. But it's very close to what you have on your page. It's a calendar of events specific to the plan itself. It's a repository for the documents associated with the plan. So the drafts we've talked about, the public engagement documents. And I mean, it just hangs out there on an independent URL. So Ulysses2040.com or something like that, right? And the bonus to staff or to whoever manages your current web presence is that we do all the work to upload all of it. So the staff doesn't get that there's not trading of documents.
I have a question. Who updates our website?
The actual town website?
No, our website, our committee website.
The website's updated by Carissa. Everything's handled through Carissa.
Town clerk.
Yeah, it's for town
So-
clerk.
Yeah, the
All right.
Yeah, so
Thank you.
that's a plus for town staff.
Hmm.
The only negative is that it's a second place, right, versus the one town place. The way we get around that is right where your link is today that says
Yeah.
Comprehensive Plan
Yeah.
Steering Committee.
We have a button.
You just click that button and instead of taking you to one page, it takes you to a different website.
Yeah.
Elizabeth?
Yeah.
Elizabeth, would it
What's
be
up?
better for them to do the website than to give it to, somebody, one of our staff to continue updating it? Don't they have enough work to do already?
I'm sure Carissa wouldn't mind. We'll want to make sure we do have a social media policy in effect. Chip,
Yeah,
On that, she'll just need to make sure she has the last oversight. So we'll have to work and coordinate with Carissa, but I don't see it an issue. And I think it was already in your proposal, Matt, which had been approved. So
okay. Well, if you can just check on that, because it would be probably beneficial not to have one of our staff who's overworked probably to begin with.
Yeah.
And I do agree. I like that. I love the fact that the town has a social media policy. And this being an extension of the town, we'll want to make sure that all the standards are adhered to and observed. Because ultimately, everything we do becomes, and as soon as we click the button, becomes a public document, a public record,
Mhm.
and totally affiliated and associated to the town. And we don't want to do anything that runs contrary to what they've got going on. So we'll plug in with Niels and with the town clerk. But if that's your preference, we can start there. And if they raise an issue, we can come back.
So the value is essentially saving the town staff time. Any other value to having you guys do that? Like, is it a different site where like it's more readable on a phone or like, is there any other?
Okay, well, you know what I can do? Let me share a few example sites with you so you can see, you know how the town website functions and what it looks like versus what our sites look like. and then you can make the determination, hey, it's not worth all the effort, or yes, this is exactly.
Yeah,
I-
and then your social media, whatever you do, or whatever is created with social media, is that managed and moderated by you guys?
So what we would encourage you to do with that, just because social media is a little hinky with getting people to follow it. If you've already got a good following on the town's social media channels, then feeding that to whoever's managing the town. We write the posts, write the content for the posts, and then just kick it out to whoever's managing that for the town. That way, it all looks and feels the same, as compliant with policy, and we're not having to generate some new followers on this new channel over here. The mobile application, so what I'll say, and as we segue into the public engagement strategy, if you do feel like the mobile application, the mobile cell application is something that you're interested in, that automatically comes with the website, because it really is kind of just a web-based program. So that makes it a little bit moot. But the social media, it just makes the most sense for you to use the town channels for that. So we're not having to generate a whole new benchmark.
I think the advantage would be that it might go on faster, because if Clarissa is busy with something and she doesn't have a chance to put it on, it's not because doesn't want to, it's just because has other work she has to accomplish. So it might become faster if it's on a website that they just put together.
Yeah,
I'll
so
share-
Carissa is the only, the town has a Facebook page. We just started it 5-6 months ago. It was just this year. Only
Yeah.
Carissa has access to that. And it is limited to postings. So nobody can comment on our posts. It's really just for us to put information out. We don't view it as a place to conduct town business or discussions at all. We would rather folks come in to all the meetings and the various meetings that we have with the different committees and so forth. So she definitely, if there's a post or something that we want to work with, I'm sure she can put that up on the Facebook post to link to other locations or updates on meetings or status of the forums or anything like that.
So I guess if you want it to be interactive, where people can vote and do things like that, I don't know. That means it has to be a different.
Somebody's gonna have to monitor that, because you're gonna get some interesting emails.
Right, I don't mean comments, I mean, like, you can have, like on Instagram, you can have polls.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
things
yeah.
like that. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you think should happen, or
Right,
give a list of items, what's important, and people can vote on that.
yeah. And we have the ability to build that into the website. And then the town clerk could just as easily say, hey, if you want to weigh in on this particular topic, click here on this link, and that links you right to the comp plan website, and then go right to the poll. And it's me personally, I like the way the town has it there is organized, just because that debate isn't always the healthiest. It's not always the healthiest avenue for debate.
right,
But so you won't get the same vibe from the project website that you would from a Facebook debate, but sometimes that's okay.
yeah, yeah, no, that's a full-time job in itself.
Right.
So,
Well, what I'll do is, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay, no, finish your
I'm just gonna say,
question on the vote.
I'll circulate a couple of website examples. You all look at them, make sure that you're comfortable with the way they look. If you are, that's the route we can go, and then we'll coordinate with the town clerk to get a link from the town website to that site.
Okay.
And this is not what I was gonna say, but it's a thing that I just thought of, which is about having it backed up somehow too. I imagine the town might want the whole content of it. Yes. Backed up somewhere for posterity or something, so it's worth, I mean, because they really have done a lot with, record keeping policy and formalizing things, which is great.
yeah,
Anyway, that's that, but my other thing is a shift. My question was, I think it was related to, I guess it's under environment, when you were talking about the environmental analysis, but saying that, you would pull out a spreadsheet and look at, the former comp plan and everything that was done, and we could go through a checklist of, and I think that's fine, and that's a good idea, but I also would like to, wondering if you can, do something like, look at the main points of the old comprehensive plan, like the goals of each section, because this really is an update. It's not a brand new plan. I mean, that's what we wrote in the grant, and that was the plan, and to incorporate sustainability into it specifically, which is very important to me. So it's the title of the committee. I'm on.
That's right.
No.
If I had a badge,
If I had a
that's what
badge,
it would say.
you'll hear all the time. No, but just because I think that maybe sometimes the little detail of did this, didn't do this, doesn't really reflect, how do you feel about, these main concepts, like what's your sense? And as we evolve with looking at the demographics and everything else, we might have a gut sense in the beginning, and then we get forums and we look at all the data and see, are these things still holding up, or how are they, valid or not? So I'd really love to see something like that happen too, in addition to the checklist. Because there's like, I don't know how many things, 50, 100, you can't ever do all the things on a comp plan checklist.
Well, I think we discussed early on, making it into like a living type of comp plan where when an item has been done, it would actually be written into the comp plan saying this has been
Right,
accomplished.
yeah, that would be, if there's a way that, yeah, we can do that. And
Because we have no idea what
Right.
has been done on the old comp plan. We really don't know.
did do some. I think Liz
Yeah, we
did
did.
some, talking to Nancy and others, and
Yeah.
we were gonna get some more info from Liz Thomas, and I have some info from when I was the supervisor, so there's a lot, and Darby Kitely probably has some good ideas, so we can go back to, we started some work on that, but we can pull out the checklist of what was done and not, cause, it's been.
But that's
a
not
while.
really for you to do. That would be for us after the comp plan is finished.
Yeah, that
We would
be
add,
the
we would be able to add on our own that this has been accomplished.
Yes, regular routine updates.
Right.
We work, I always hold off the town of Canandaigua because they've got this comp plan implementation committee
Hmm.
that meets monthly. And
Mm.
as things are getting done, they're
Oh, really?
referencing back, yeah.
That's a good idea.
CIC, town of
Not
Lyons.
monthly, but like maybe
Quarterly,
They
yeah.
get stuff done fast.
Yeah.
Every month they
Yeah.
get something.
That's
else.
great.
Yeah, well, and it's,
No, but that's a good idea.
Yeah.
That's an interesting implementation.
Yeah.
step. I
Yeah.
like that.
yeah, and it's more of an accountability tool, someone who shows up at town budget meetings and say, you said this was a priority, but it's not in the budget, like
Mhm.
what's going on here,
Yeah.
those kinds of things. And I love your take about it's more about the check, and we tell people this all the time, we don't like to think about comp plans as a checklist.
Hmm.
You might have done every single thing on goal number 3's checklist, but we didn't advance goal number 3 because we picked the wrong tactics or it didn't accelerate the way. So the question really is, was goal number 3 achieved, or
Right.
is goal number 3 moving in the right direction
Hmm.
versus did you do this and this?
Right,
and
Right.
this?
so I'd
Both
love
are
to see us work
important.
off that too, but I think the checklist exercise is also valuable because it'll help us when we're formulating our next checklist.
Yeah.
And say like, are you making things that are really like unreasonable or not, what are the achievable
Is
things?
there a time frame for the whole, like, this looking back going forward?
So it's as part of that, existing conditions report. It's called the planning foundations analysis. And so we would like to have it done by November.
Okay, so that's
completed.
this, that what I'm referring to is part of the draft. existing.
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. Liz, were you jumping in there?
Nope.
Oh,
You guys are all good.
okay. I just want to make sure we hear from everybody here. And I know maybe you have other things you want to say, but anybody?
No, so far, so good.
Good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
go ahead,
sure.
Roxanne.
Go ahead. No.
So just, I'm not trying to have us have any more meetings or have this last any longer than anybody wants it to, but I'm just curious as to why the steering committee ends, or the meetings end while you're still doing some of the other thing. And as you said, I mean, I just want to make sure that it's not dissolved. It may evolve to different people, but as people have time, but as you said, like, what if there was something very near the end And then, you know, that really came up and the board wanted to throw it back, and so
Yeah.
just like maybe just, you know, having that bar, not go.
A light blue, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
To meet like we are, but just that it indicates that we're still around as the core who's been working on this to help, you know, the board and the public mesh into the plan. So that's.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
like,
really
like
all,
or grayish blue.
yeah, all that really did was coincide with the
Right.
delivery of the draft.
Yeah,
So
no,
the
I
idea
know,
that
but-
the board would kick it back is feasible. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
well, yeah, and
something
you raised
that-
that, and
yeah.
also, you know, some of the analysis, the secret analysis stuff is happening too, and we may, you know, certainly probably might have to look at that
Yeah.
too, so yeah, so that, if you. change
Sure,
that,
we'll update that.
Okay, thanks.
Anything else?
So meeting times was something that Niels wanted me to
Yeah.
drill in with you on. He had noted that it's typically been hanging around first Wednesday, first Thursday, somewhere in there.
Yeah, first Wednesday, first Thursday, wait a minute.
We have, various things, because everybody's got work schedules and stuff.
Have to pump it all the way out 18 months from now or 15 months from now.
It's nice to have something semi-regular. though,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, I would
Um,
just add, like, so our committee, the conservation thing, we have the people who are really, it's like 7 people, but they're
Yeah.
all doing a whole bunch of different. And I was always trying as the chair to you know, to make it work for the
Right.
most people every time. And then this time we just tried, you know, we did a poll and then we picked it, and actually we ended up with like alternating the second Wednesday and the second Thursday. It's a little confusing, but wrote it out for the whole year, and it's actually been working a
Yeah,
lot better.
I think
And
it's
so
great.
just my input onto that, I
Yeah.
was impressed that because it was really hard for everybody, and I, as the chair, was feeling really bad about not being able to make sure everybody was included.
Well, I mean,
And
it
it's
has to
tiring.
sometimes.
Yeah, it does, and
It
people
does.
have been saying that, and
Yeah.
we've had more complete attendance, and it's been easier.
I think it would be a good idea to have something regular until whatever, next year, June or July or August of next year. And we have 2 chairs, you know, Liz and I are co-chairs. If 2 of us can't be here, there's plenty of people here that can also.
The only thing I would mention is that both Carl and me, first Tuesday and third Tuesday, we're on planning board in the evening, so don't bother with those 2 days.
Yeah.
I would avoid Tuesdays altogether.
Days are bad. I was just gonna
Yeah,
say that.
Tuesdays are bad
Yeah.
to begin with, yeah.
How's-
Because the
how's
second
today?
through Tuesday and the fourth Tuesday are town board meetings.
We're here tonight on the first Thursday.
Right,
How's that looking for everyone?
September, it would be September 5th, October 3rd. And then it would be the 7th of November. That's not really that bad so far.
January 2nd, I noted but I noticed later in your meeting minutes that you met on July 5th, so you don't have any problem coming right back to work after the holiday.
Yeah.
So January 2nd is one that was close to a holiday, but beyond it, so that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't meet in July.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one that you might want to.
I, just so you know, I have
Oh,
class
Know that we don't have. one
actually
Labor Day.
Thursdays.
I saw you guys.
Yeah, that was.
So when September, October. September, October. So Wednesday, I could do Wednesday, but I don't need to be at every meeting either. I mean, we have 2
Oh.
chairs and we have other people.
Are you talking about the first Wednesday or the first Thursday?
For September and October for me, my class changes month to month.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's Tuesday, sometimes it's Wednesday, sometimes it's Thursday. So it's Thursday for September and October.
And then
Okay,
there's a
and that's the
change.
first Thursday?
And then Wednesday is good, September, October, November and December.
Try Wednesdays?
So it would be the first Wednesday or the first Wednesday? Wait a minute, let's take a look here, see what we
Really,
have.
I mean, and then we could look at, yeah, you know, say Wednesday, Thursday, the same thing we did with our.
I remember, I think Rebecca taught a class.
But it changes.
Right, so we just can at least throw that out to make sure. she
Was
looks
hers
at every
Wednesday?
single one.
Yeah, because hers changes too.
Yeah.
Michelle and I
I think
have
hers was Wednesdays, but I don't know what this year is.
The only problem with the first Wednesday on some of them is the planning board is on a Tuesday and then coming here on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
Give you something to do for the week.
Yeah, right. Give me something to do for the week. Exactly, yeah.
The
The only
second
problem
Wednesday-
is you can't really prepare enough because you're,
Yeah, the town board is in the same boat, right? Because they meet on the second Tuesday. So
Yeah.
if you did it on
Yeah.
second Wednesday, you'd be
Oh.
bang, bang.
right,
bang.
exactly. It'd be the same thing.
Yeah, but we're used to the meetings.
We'll survive.
Yeah.
So.
Well, if it has to be
first
on,
Wednesday of the month.
yeah, if it
sound
has
like
to be,
a
it has to
reasonable
be.
Shot, and then go for it.
Do that for a while. The first hiccup is January first, so we want to just do this till December and then.
Yeah, and then we can look at people's
Mhm.
schedule,
Look at,
teaching and.
Okay, so the next meeting would be the 2nd of October.
Yes, well, no, September,
September.
Oh, I'm sorry, September 4th.
yes.
That would be the first
Is
one.
this time working for people, the 5:30? Do we need to make this a different, like, does it fluctuate or how does this work?
It works for me. I mean, especially if we get out at 6:30.
Yeah.
Find it eating out.
Okay,
So-
in October it will be the 2nd.
We should still be sure.
Yeah.
But it's sometimes easier starting at 7 to try to really.
No,
Yeah.
I'm fine at 7.
Oh, yeah.
So on November, it would be the 6th.
First Wednesday
So it's the first Wednesday through the year. And
through year end,
Exactly.
yeah.
Okay, I'm just making sure.
Liz, do you have a preference on the time? Because you have kids that are busy doing things and needing to eat dinner and all.
December would be the 4th.
Is that working for you,
Maybe
Liz?
she's here.
5:30?
That's fine for me.
It works, okay.
Okay.
Just checking
Diane?
because you have kids that are busy
Time's
and
right.
need to eat dinner.
Carl,
all-
good for you?
all-
Oh, they'll be at,
Okay,
they'll be at football through November, so. Oh, yeah.
All right.
Okay, snow, public iron, so technically.
okay. So it will be September 4th will be the next meeting, and then October 2nd will be the next. November 6th will be the next, and then December 4th will be the next.
And then
Okay.
we'll, in December, we can.
We'll check it.
Yeah.
Okay, got it all.
December,
Take that.
And at
Thanks, John.
5:30, we're saying.
Yeah.
The agenda.
Yeah.
So, okay, so anything else under? I guess we kind of went into the 6th item, which was the next steps, which is
Yeah.
the next scheduled meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Also, next steps is review and amend the draft public involvement plan.
So
I have time for that.
yeah, so I checked with Niels, but since he's out, I'd like to punt that to September, just because, I wanna make sure, I haven't seen a draft of that.
Okay.
I did see the notes from the discussions you all had. But I just wanna make sure he doesn't have a draft in hand, a formal draft somewhere
Hmm.
that we could just be marking up. But that means in September, we gotta really nail it, so we're on it. And then the other thing he wanted you to think about, and what I can do is circulate, we can do this via email, but what his suggestion was that we block out or chunk up plan elements by month, right?
Mhm.
Try to sort of schedule it out and say, this is what the October meeting looks like,
Mhm.
right? So that sitting here today, you'll see how the meetings play out, almost a syllabus, if you will, how these things play out. It'll also factor into, when we want to do focus groups, where we want to do focus groups. We want the right focus groups. I have them kind of all stacked on top of each other, but we want the right focus group meeting around the topic that we're discussing or talking about. So one is feeding the other when possible. So what I'm gonna do is put together a draft of one of those, kind of a draft forecast of what each meeting looks like from here until the end.
Mhm.
And then we'll come back in September and amend that, bless it, and catalog it. if That's
Cool.
okay.
So you can provide that to us like a week or two ahead of time? like-
Yes, and I should have said that in the, again, the rhythm, staff has been, pulling together these agendas. We're gonna attach any of the working documents, to that agenda. So when you get your agenda, it'll be a full packet of anything that,
Hmm.
any of the homework items that we have.
Okay. Was that C, draft plan for meeting topics and
Yes.
targeted outreach? Okay.
Yep.
Okay, any discussion on that. Okay, so number 7 on our agenda is member reports.
Mm, nothing from the planning board, no?
Anybody
No?
got anything they want to say?
I mean, I can just say that the water source water protection plan committee, which I'm also on, is, is working on a water source protection plan, and we're getting there. Now we've gotten going again since we had the transition of losing our support person from New York Rural Water. And so things are really getting put together now. So I
Oh,
think that
good.
that's something that's gonna be coming along in the fall for sure for the, and for the town board to look at. There'll be a draft, and I think it's, it's useful here.
Yeah,
It can be an appendix, it can be things that are considered. It has a lot to do with a lot of different aspects of our overall like use and goals and constraints. So, so we're pretty excited about that, but I think that will be coming. I could keep
Good.
people updated.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
And just so you know, we try to keep our meetings to an hour with like a 15-minute like wiggle room. Liz, did you want to add something?
No, I was just gonna say, I unfortunately was not at the last town meeting. I was out of town for work and was at a public hearing myself, so I wasn't able to join. So I don't have any updates for the town board, so I apologize for that.
Okay,
It's okay.
no worries. Any others?
No.
All right, thank you. We need a motion to adjourn.
Yes, I'll make a motion.
Second.
Diane, all right, all in favor? All right.
Bye.
Thank you. It was really nice to meet
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you. Thanks so much.